I have a confession to make. Not every product that I review, even products that I think are really good, not all of them make it into my day-to-day rotation. And that means that I don't always have the opportunity to come back after 6 or so months and give you guys a follow-up on how it's been to live with the product for a really long time. And that's why we're making the video that we're making today, because this is the Rotor Riot FPV Backpack V1. And when I reviewed it, I liked it so much that I made it my daily driver backpack. And then unlike some other backpacks that I have committed to and then gone, it turns out I don't like it, and gone back to my old standby, I have stuck with it. I really like this backpack. But there have been some things about it over the last 6 months that I think you want to know. So today, we're going to do a follow-up on the Rotor Riot Backpack V1, and we're going to take a close look at the Rotor Riot Backpack V2. They've updated it. We're going to look at the things they improved about it, or in a couple cases made it worse. I'm Joshua Bardwell. You're going to learn something today. In case you didn't get to see my original review of the Rotor Riot backpack, I want to go over a couple of the key features of this backpack that I loved that made me want to make it my daily driver. I'll put a link to the whole review down in the video description if you'd like to get a deeper perspective on my thoughts about the backpack. But the things that I really liked about it were, number one, I love that it has a separate compartment on the top for the controller. Okay, so controller goes in here, controller is well protected, controller is easy to access, and we've got a couple little slots up here for various miscellaneous. Oh, this is the rain cover. We'll just set that aside. I just stuffed it in there for storage after I moved out of this backpack. So I love this. I love the storage for quadcopters on the outside. I like that we have both buckles and stretchy bands. So if you've got just a couple quadcopters, you just clip them on and they're held very neatly. But if you just need to jam a bunch of crap on the outside, you just stuff it under there and you're good to go. I love that there is a laptop pocket in here, and it's very accessible from the outside without having to take the whole thing apart. And finally, I just love the internal organization of the backpack. I just find that it works really well for the way that I carry my stuff and the amount of stuff that I want to carry, especially because the controller is no longer in this main compartment like it is on some other backpacks. It means there's more room in there for more stuff. And I also really dig that they have stitched this panel here, this panel going across here. They've actually stitched it in addition to it being Velcroed. I find that as bags age, the Velcro starts to wear out and some of the big panels tend to sort of sag, and that is just not possible to happen here. Although it does mean that you can't move this up and down, which kind of in some ways limits your ability to customize the inside. So those are the things that I really liked about the V1. And a little later in the video, what I want to do is go over my thoughts about the V1 backpack after 6 months of using it. Some ways in which maybe I thought I was going to like it that I turned out not to, some wear points that I think wore maybe a little prematurely, and just other thoughts. But before we go into that, let's take a look at the V2 backpack and see what they have changed and improved. And the V2 backpack keeps the same fundamental structure as the V1 backpack. So if you loved things about the V1, you're probably going to like the V2 even more. They still have what they call the rip and dip pocket. This is a side pocket that opens up and allows you access to this internal part of the bag without having to open up the back and take everything out. The idea is that you're going to put your goggles in here, your controller in here, and you'll be able to quickly get them out and put them away if you're just trying to, well, rip and dip, as Sean Let's Fly RC calls it. Did you notice there was something missing from my rip and dip scenario? You get your goggles, you get your controller, and you get your quadcopter presumably off the back, and you're good to go, except what about your batteries? To get the batteries out of the V1, you had to open the whole thing up, which kind of spoiled the idea of a rip and dip. That's been fixed in the V2. So the V2 has an additional rip and dip pocket, which opens up down here, and you can pull your batteries right out. Or if you're not using a battery case like this, you could just reach in and get your batteries out of the bottom. The original battery bag that came with the V1 backpack was this kind of soft fabric, and this is still available if you prefer it, but the V2 now has the option for a hard shell. It's still fire retardant, and Rotor Riot has done some tests where they pop batteries off inside it to see how fire retardant it is, but it's going to make it a little bit easier to pull and push in if you're using that rip and dip functionality. And I got to say, when I first saw it, I thought, well, this is this has got to be smaller than this. Like, it's got to hold fewer batteries, but I stuffed this full of as many batteries as I could, and then I took those same batteries and I stuffed them in here, and it actually holds almost the same amount. So I'm giving it a try. One of my complaints about the V1 backpack was that it opens from the back. And the argument there is that if you are carrying it around on your back, you don't want to set it down in the dirt, open it from the front, and then have the back be all dirty when you put it on and get your back all dirty. And I guess I see that argument, but for me, it's pretty freaking annoying if I have quadcopters on the front when I get where I'm going to set it down on the front and have to open up the back because, well, the quadcopters that are on the front, I mean, this is fine because there's no quadcopters on it. But if I have quadcopters on the front, then it's kind of rolling around and it's really unsteady and just, I really don't like it. Also, if I have to get at the quadcopters, then I have to lift it up and get the quadcopters off and my stuff all falls out, or I have to close it and zip it up again. I actually really prefer front opening backpacks to rear opening backpacks for that reason. Rotor Riot have addressed that complaint with a redesign of the front flap. So the front flap now opens like a bookcase. Okay? And the idea being that when you get where you're going, you'll unzip that, you'll fold it out like this, and then you can lay your bag down. And now your quadcopters are here, your bag is flat, you can open it up, and you can get at everything in the whole bag. Great. But what about your computer? Right? It used to be that your laptop pouch was here, and that would mean your laptop was rolling around in the dirt, which of course nobody wants. They have extended the laptop sleeve, and now the laptop sleeve fully zips and fully encloses, and there's this rugged fabric here, so when this is laying around on the ground, your laptop isn't getting dirty. And if you, like me, or like if you're not doing that very often, you can just leave this half unzipped. You can just leave this half unzipped, and then you can just reach in and get your laptop out just like usual. But if you know you're going to be setting it down, you just zip that up, and then you're good to go. Very clever. It seems like that is almost 100% an improvement with almost no downside, and I'm a big fan of things like that. Another thing they've upgraded is this clasp right here on the little bungee ties. The original one, if you pulled this and cinched it tight, it would slip. And this one is a completely different one that holds tighter. Hey there folks, it's Joshua from the future. I actually just got back from a day of work with my Rotor Riot bag, and after plopping it down on the hotel couch, I realized this was a perfect opportunity for me to show you guys like some real world usage. So here is my laptop, and as you can see in the real world, I almost never zip the internal pouch unless I know for a fact I'm going to be folding out this thing with some quads on it and I want to protect my laptop. It's just so much easier to get at if you leave it this way. I do not have any quads on it at this moment, but I have. And then if we pull it around here, we can open here and voila! The magic is here. And this is way less organized than it has been in the past. It is literally, I've just jammed it full of shit after a day of hard work. But you can see we've got a ton of stuff in here. Got my goggles too. This is a, well, a little travel router that I travel with sometimes. Here is just some odds and ends, prop wrench, SD cards, antennas for my analog goggles that I put in here because it's just an easy pocket to get stuff at. Here are all my tools, soldering tools, a bunch of pens because occasionally when I'm on a trip, people ask me to sign things. Hand tools, and here are GoPros in these Think Tank bags. Think Tank's the company that makes them. I've got, oh my goodness, what is this? This is a USB FLIR camera for my phone. This is DJI goggle battery, USB power supply, immersion RC RF power meter. Oh, here is my spare SpeedyBee adapter. I was looking for that today. Battery checker. Extra cell phone for no reason. More batteries for my DJI goggles. A Ethernet adapter. Some extra cables for my USB goggles, or for my DJI goggles. Spare battery that didn't fit inside my battery pouch because I was stuffed it away as I was leaving and didn't have time to put it back here in, turn over, Ooh, Rotor Riot logo. Didn't have it to put in here. You get way more batteries in this thing than I thought. More batteries that I didn't have time to put away. So another battery checker. Little notepad, whatever. HD0 goggles. One sort of gripe. This is more a gripe about the HD0 goggles than it is about the backpack. With the analog adapter, you can't put the goggles in like this. They're just too wide. I mean, you might could, but I wouldn't like it. So they go in sideways, and as a result, they kind of take up way more space than I might prefer, but there's plenty of room in the front here. You can almost put two goggles in, one in front of the other. There you go. That is a typical sort of day's loadout. As you can see, this is more a day of me going somewhere and working than a day of like going out to a bando and ripping. There's like, my controller is in the top, right? But there's like no quads, and it just gives you a sense of how I'm using this on a day-to-day basis, at least for this particular day. And this is what it looks like when it is all neatly packed back into the backpack, and you can see just how much freaking space this thing has. Okay, the batteries are not here in the bottom. I've got them out charging right now, but I've put everything neatly back, and you can see this entire section here is completely empty. There is room for so much in this backpack, and I don't know how they do it. It's just like, obviously, you have a certain amount of space and you stuff stuff in it, but it just feels like this backpack has way more room than other FPV bags that I've used. There is a downside to one of the new redesigns though. The additional rip and dip pocket on the inside means that on this side there is no Velcro, or very little Velcro, to hold this shelf in place. Instead of the Velcro going all the way back across, now the Velcro is just barely at the front and just barely at the back because the cover of the rip and dip pocket isn't Velcroed. And that means that this is a little less secure than it was. That's not my favorite. Another change Rotor Riot has made that I'm not a big fan of is that they've added this teal color to the outside of the bag. Like teal is their signature color and they're trying to like brand it up, but you got this cool black bag, like a lot of people like just black, right? And it's kind of a shame because the original one was just black and silver and was really neutral. And if for some reason you didn't like that color, well, you're kind of stuck with it. The same is true here, that we've got this Rotor Riot logo. The other one was really subtle with the Rotor Riot skull here on the top. Really liked it. Now we've got this and it's sort of screaming Rotor Riot. I guess you can't blame them for putting their branding on it, but it was kind of nice how like a little low-key the original one was. And this one is a little more in your face. Okay, now let's bring the V1 back and let's take a closer look at how it has held up over 6 months of me, well, literally flying around the world. A lot of times, if you gave me a backpack and then waited 6 months, it would have spent a lot of time sitting on the floor of my office or maybe in the trunk of my car, but not being toted around into and out of cars, into and out of planes. I've had a lot of travel in the last 6 months, and that means it was a perfect time to really put this backpack through the ringer. And overall, it held up really well. Like, I have no major complaints, but there were a couple things I did to make it better that I think are going to apply to the V2 as well. And there were a couple of places where it started to show wear that I think you're going to want to know about. Let's start there. The main place that this backpack started to show wear was here on the bottom. You can see right here that this kind of faux leather material is starting to wear through, especially here on the back, especially here on the bottom. And there is actually it's a little hard to see, but there is a plastic or cardboard. There's some kind of hard square here, but where the edges of the hard square were, it wasn't quite the same size as the bottom. And so where those edges were, we started to see some wear. And I've had other backpacks that lasted me 2 or maybe even 3 years. I'm thinking of the iFlight bag and the Torvol bag. Both of them, well, they can't both have lasted 2 or 3 years because I haven't been doing FPV like long enough for that to be true, but they lasted a good long time and didn't show wear like this. I was somewhat concerned that if this was going to be a bag that I was going to have for years and years, that was going to be an issue that was going to upset me. The other thing that really bugged me about this bag was that when you lift it like this, by this handle, so which obviously you're going to do that a lot, when you lift it by the handle, it pulls the Velcro here, and this Velcro here was just kind of coming off. And you can see it's not doing that now. And the reason is that I have reinforced it. And I think I'm going to do this on all of my bags going forward because I just don't think there's any way around this. You're going to kind of pull and it's gonna kind of start to come off. Here's what I used to reinforce it. This is a roll of hook and loop fastener. And what makes me feel so freaking impressed with myself for finding this is that this is one-sided sew-on fastener. So it doesn't have an adhesive, it doesn't have the loop on the other side, it is just the hook side of the hook and loop fastener. It's about a 3-inch roll, and I thought that was a good size. And I actually, it came with the loops as well, and I no use for them, and I just threw them out. But you get this roll of the hook, and you cut yourself a length of it, about like so, and then you just put it in the corners here, and it reinforces the corners. You just have way more Velcro holding that in place than just this little like 1/2-inch strip, and it still starts to pull away a little bit, but it's way better. And there's almost no downside to doing that. So again, I love things that have upsides, but basically no downsides. I'll put a link to this roll of hook and loop fastener in the video description if you want to pick some up. And if you have an FPV backpack, you totally should. The one thing I liked the least about this bag, and it's not enough of a deal breaker to make me switch away from it as my daily driver, was the lack of kind of an easily accessible zipper pocket to like stuff like my earbuds. When I'm on a plane, I want my earbuds. I want to be able to just reach down and get them and put them in my ear. Like anything I might want readily accessible. And yeah, I know that I could stuff things down in these side pockets. Like they're very spacious. But for little things, like they don't close up. And I'd be worried about like, oh, I tipped the bag and my earbuds fall out or something. And yeah, I know we've also got this pocket here. And that's fine, but like, it's not great. It's not great. I really... Like, yeah, there's even this, right? I could stuff it in there, but it's like, it's kind of hard to get in there and like find things that you're looking for. Like the iFlight bag that I had before this one had a nice pocket right up here that unzipped and opened up, and it was just like super good. You could even stuff your cell phone into it if you're going through security, and I just really, really liked it. I even tried using the molly webbing here to put like a pouch, basically like a little unzipper pouch on there. But I just didn't like it. Like it was okay, but then it took space that I could be using to mount quads, and when I was putting it into and out of a plane, it would snag, and it kind of looked military, and I wasn't sure I really wanted that look, so I ended up taking it off. I don't know, because like if you put a pouch up here, then like you're adding size and you're covering up this cool logo, and I don't know what the perfect answer is, but it is the one thing that kind of bugged me repeatedly about this backpack. But the thing that kept me coming back to it, and the main reason that it will continue to be my daily driver, is just how much freaking space it has on the inside that you can get stuff into. I can pack more stuff into this bag. And I don't know if it's like something about the way that they've got the controller up here on the top that makes room here. I can get so much stuff into this bag. And it still counts as a carry-on, and it still fits in an overhead compartment. And if I have to, when the overheads are full, I've even sometimes tucked it down under the seat in front of me, and if you put it in with the top facing in and kind of push it, you don't have a lot of foot room, and technically it's not under the seat completely, and they shouldn't let you do it, but I've never had it be an issue, and it's just really good at getting a whole bunch of junk into a compact form factor, and that, at the end of the day, is what you really want out of a backpack. So if you're interested in picking up the Rotor Riot Backpack V2, then there are links in the video description below, and they are affiliate links. And that means that when you click that link and make any purchase at the affiliated store, I get a small commission. Affiliate links are one of the easiest ways for you to support the creators who make content that you enjoy. They don't cost you anything except just take the time to find the affiliate link, click it, and go do your shopping. It applies to every single thing you buy from the store, not just a specific item. At least that's usually the case. So it just means a lot. You can even bookmark the links and just make sure you use them before you do any shopping. But maybe this isn't your favorite backpack like it is mine. I had the iFlight backpack as my #1 favorite backpack for a long time before it was dethroned by this one, and I think you owe it to yourself to check out my original review of the iFlight backpack. I'm going to put a card on screen and a link in the video description to that, as well as to my review of the V1 Rotor Riot backpack, which gives you a little bit of a deeper look into what I like and maybe what I didn't like about this bag. I'll see you there.